It is Friday, September 19th. This is the Christian Commute. I am your host, Seth Dunn, and you are riding home with me. Unfortunately, not home in time to catch the kickoff of the Cartersville High School game. So by the time I turn it on the TV, it'll be over because they kill everybody until they get into the state playoffs. And then they beat people in the state playoffs. I'm just saying they're not killing everybody there. But they generally kill everybody that they play. Most games, with few exceptions, are over in the first quarter. I wanted to take my kids tonight, but my wife reminded me that it was homecoming and all the girls would be wearing trashy dresses. And she says that's a hard pass. Her word was trashy. My word is more like a high-end prostitute. Because trashy could be cheap, right? When you say somebody is dressed trashy, yes, they may look like a cheap prostitute. Maybe they didn't pay much money for their slutty clothes. But you can dress like a prostitute and dress really nice. So a lot of these girls who go to the homecoming now in their dresses that are just about as short as their bathing suits pay a lot of money for their dresses. So I don't know if you can call it trashy. They're more like a high-end prostitute. Julia Roberts at the end of Pretty Woman, after Richard Gere sends her to the fancy clothes store, instead of Julia Roberts at the beginning of Pretty Woman. That's dressed trashy, right? But as Dolly Parton used to say, she's still alive, I guess she still says it. As Dolly Parton has been known to say, it takes a lot of money to look this cheap. It takes a lot of money to look this cheap. And there has become a plague of girls spending a lot of money to look cheap at the Cartersville homecoming in the last few years. And even though my kids were participating in Homecoming Spirit Week, my wife didn't want to take them. So our young, impressionable girls can see all the people dressed like high-end prostitutes. And this is what I call, I'm getting to a theological point. I'm not just complaining like Andy Rooney. I'm getting to a theological point. I'm calling this the cross-pointing of the youth group culture. The cross-pointing of the youth group culture. You can call it the rock bridging or make up any whatever ridiculous name of a church you want. Where I know I live in a Bible Belt town and I can walk the homecoming stands and I'll be like, I seen you at church, I seen you at church, I seen you at church. All y'all are youth group people. All y'all are. I see you. Youth group girl. For whatever reason, the boys all dress like they go to Southern Baptist Theological Seminary now in their little suits and bow ties. But the girls look like prostitutes. You know, the five-star hotel prostitutes, not industrial boulevard prostitutes. There's a difference. And I know that these are Bible Belt youth group girls, and I'm like, this is the cross-pointing of culture when it's all about getting people to come and have fun. It's all about getting people to come and have fun, and there is not an emphasis. In fact, there's a de-emphasis on personal holiness. And you have Christian women and Christian youth, young women, teenagers, old enough to be Jesus's mom, right? I mean, Mary probably wasn't very old, out there dressing immodestly. And then they're going to go to church Sunday. Now, have things really changed in the last 50, 100 years? Well, were there churchy girls who would still go out and underage drink after prom and homecoming? Were there church-attending girls who would go and fornicate with their boyfriends after homecoming? Yes, that's always been there. That's no matter, even if they were dressed more modestly, people have always done that. I get it. That's the sin. But now the culture is such where you're not even trying to hide it anymore. And if you go to a big box church in Cartersville, Georgia, right here in the Bible Belt, and I'm sure it's not much different in your town, whether it's Calhoun, Dalton, or anywhere across Georgia or Alabama or Tennessee, I guess you got to be a homeschool, I don't want to say weirdo, so I won't say it, to avoid all this, wearing a homemade potato sack with a burqa. Anywhere you see this, if you go to these big box churches, you'll see girls without a Christian sense of modesty. You see it on Sunday morning, and you see it in the exaggeration exponentially worse on homecoming night. And you think it's that youth pastor's job to say anything about it. Not if he wants to keep his job. Not if he wants to keep his job. Because he's there to pump numbers. And should I just be blaming some youth pastor? No. It's not the youth pastor's fault. The youth pastor is just a cruise director activities man. He is an errand boy sent by grocery clerks to collect a bill. No. It is the parents. It is the moms and dads. It is ultimately a failure of the fathers. And mark my words, this day, September 19th, 2025, when my twins get asked to go to the homecoming dance, and it's going to happen soon because they're in 7th grade, and both of them are very pretty girls. They are not going to dress like high-end prostitutes. Will they show knee? Of course. Will they show their entire thigh? That's a big no. That's a big no. We are supposed to look different, Christians. We are supposed to look different. Today's show title is entitled The Futility of Tom Buck. I might change it to the Twitter futility. Twitter futility of Tom Buck. The Twitter futility of Tom Buck. And it's not just about Tom Buck, but we're just making an example of him. And we'll get to that after we don't have a question in the inbox, because no one has written in to sethdun88@gmail.com or dialed 470-315-0875 and asked me a question about Christian theology or apologetics. And yes, I've given you but 2 shows this week, and I know the more shows I give, the more people listen, the more people share, and the more people write in. I know. And I'm supposed to give 3, and I only gave 2 because I had to go to the doctor yesterday. So I'm old. My health is failing all around me. So I work from home because I had a doctor's appointment yesterday. And there's follow-up and referrals. So there's going to be all kinds of working from home. I mean, I'm not like dying, by the way. Maybe I'm exaggerating. I don't have like cancer or anything. I just told you I have like a pain in my foot and hands. They're testing for that. I'll have like 3 doctor's appointments over the course of a few months. But that's one of the reasons why there's no questions in the inbox, because this isn't an everyday podcast anymore. It's a we're lucky if we get it 2 days a week podcast. But we are going to have the Bible chapter review as always. We're in Luke chapter 9, verses 37 through 43. Luke chapter 9, verses 37 through 43. Jesus is coming down from the Mount of Transfiguration. On the next day, When they came down from the mountain, a large crowd met him. And a man from the crowd shouted, "Teacher, I beg you to look at my son, for he is my only boy, and a spirit seizes him, and he suddenly screams, and it throws him into a convulsion with foaming at the mouth, and only with difficulty does it leave him, mauling him as it leaves. I begged your disciples to cast it out, and they could not." And Jesus answered and said, "You unbelieving and perverted generation, how long shall I be with you and put up with you? Bring your son here." While he was approaching, the demon slammed the boy to the ground and threw him into a convulsion. But Jesus rebuked the unclean spirit and healed the boy and gave him back to his father. And they were all amazed at the greatness of God. Well, Jesus didn't act very nice here, did he? This is not rubber Jesus that everybody puts in the doctor's office and carries around in your pocket. All the rubber Jesuses that we find. I have 4 of them now that I'm taking from people saying, "Give me that graven image." Smiling with a little sash on his robe that says, "Jesus loves you. He's so happy to see you." Jesus comes down from the mountain and he's upset at the people. The people are sitting there waiting for him. And remember yesterday I talked about the parallels between the Mount of Transfiguration and Moses receiving the 10 Commandments on Mount Sinai. What happened when Moses came down from Mount Sinai? Does anybody remember? Moses got really, really mad at the Jews because the Jews had made the golden calf. "Oh, this Moses is gone. Aaron, make us a golden calf, and we'll treat the golden calf like the God who brought us out of Egypt." And there was yelling from Moses and anger, and there was killing of people because of the idolatry. So the parallel doesn't stop with a glory cloud on a mountain, does it? Here we have Jesus come down the mountain and get mad at the people, an unbelieving and perverted people. So here's a needy guy that Jesus has mercy on. Help me. Help me who? Help me, teacher. Help me, Lord. Help me, Messiah. Help me, Son of God. No. Help me, teacher. Help me, Rabbi. There's a million teachers. There's a million rabbis. Gimme. Not going to call you Lord. I asked your disciples to cast this demon out of my only son, and they didn't do it. So now I need you to do it. So now Jesus is frustrated with the perverted and unbelieving generation. Perhaps he's even frustrated. I don't know if that's exactly 100% clear from the context, but he could also be frustrated with his disciples who failed to cast out the demon. Remember, this is not a horizontal review of the Gospels, it's a vertical one. But I do feel like I should mention here that in other Gospels and in other manuscripts of other Gospels, not all the manuscripts, Jesus says, "Oh, this is a tough demon. This only comes out through prayer and fasting." To say this is why his disciples couldn't cast it out. They weren't praying and fasting. But he didn't pray, and right here he didn't pray and fast to do it. He just cast it out. He just rebuked the demon. Here's a guy with a great need. He's stressed out. Did Jesus say, "Oh, buddy, come on in here. Let me put my arm around you. What's wrong? How can I help you? I feel so sorry for you." Well, he yelled at them. He called them names. He insulted them. And it's true. Do you know an insult can be true? Like if you see somebody who's fat and you say, "Hey, fatty," you're stinking up the place. I mean, sorry. It's not supposed to be funny. Forgive me. That's insensitive. But you know, people, if you're really fat, especially down south, it's so humid, you start sweating. I mean, it's hot enough down here for skinny people. Like really fat people get really sweaty, and then they start to smell. That's a thing. So you can just be disgusted with some big old fat smelly person and say, hey fatty, you're stinking up the place. That's an insult, because you just called them fatty and you said they stink. But it's true. All right? It's true. By the way, it doesn't make it okay because it's true. Don't do that to anybody. I'm just pointing it out. Because you're saying Jesus insulted them. Yeah, he did. And I'm sure they took offense to it. But it's true. And in his divine righteous anger, Jesus called them out as a perverted, unclean generation. Don't you see they're the same? They're the same as the Israelites who had to wander in the desert for not having enough faith in God? Don't you see they're the same people that Moses contended with in great frustration? And don't you see they're the same people that God had mercy on? So Jesus, even though he's upset with this crowd and the guy, teacher, your disciples couldn't do it, not, oh Lord, Messiah, Son of God, even though you didn't tell anybody, Lord, Messiah, Son of God, please do this for me. Help. Jesus has mercy and rebukes the unclean spirit. And what's his question? How much longer do I have to contend with you? How much longer do I have to put up with you? And Jesus, he's frustrated. You get this? He's coming towards the end of his earthly ministry. Now he's telling his disciples he's about to be handed over. He was just discussing having to go to the cross and accomplish the atonement with Moses and Elijah on the Mount of Transfiguration. And he's ready to be done with these people. So, for all the people who want a hippy-dippy, touchy-feely Jesus, this ain't him. Jesus is God. And because he's God, he's loving, kind, and merciful. But also, he's holy and righteous and angry at sin and unbelief. So here we have the demon cast out, and with that we'll end the Bible chapter review. Now let's go to the show topic, the futility of Tom Buck on Twitter. The futility of Tom Buck on Twitter. Tom Buck is the pastor of the First Baptist Church of Lindale, Texas. I believe he has some kind of terminal degree from Southern Baptist Theological Seminary. Maybe it's a THM or a doctorate. I don't know. But he's been a Southern Baptist for a long time. He used to write at Pulpit and Pen shortly. I believe he's a board member, or was at one time a board member of G3. I don't know if he still is. So I would say, in the terms of mafia, you know the line from the Leonardo DiCaprio movie, The Departed, there's guys you can hit and there's guys you can't hit. And that guy's a guy you almost can't hit. And Tom Buck's a guy you can hit. I mean, he's not Al Mohler or anything. But he is he's a bit of a James White fanboy, if you ask me. But he's a somewhat prominent person. He's around the periphery of prominent people in the SBC. He's much louder than his influence. And I'm sure some of you who follow me on Twitter have seen him. And we all know that Charlie Kirk was assassinated last week. And on Sunday, many pastors took the time to say something about it during their sermons, because they felt that this was an event that needed to be commented on, if they're going through Romans 5, Romans 6, Romans 7, Romans 8, they're going to stop and say, hey, let me say something for 5 minutes, because this has struck our national conscience. It's an assassination. And I think I mentioned the other day, it kind of how I imagined the MLK assassination would have felt to people in the 60s, though obviously Charlie Kirk was not up against what MLK was up against in terms of a bunch of racism in society and segregation. Nevertheless, it was hate that killed each man. So pastors were addressing it. And most of the pastors who addressed it, I think, across the nation, I didn't do a Barna survey or anything, were like, boy, this is really sad. This is a Christian brother, and he was murdered by a hateful, progressive, leftist, fascist type person who's into trans stuff for daring to speak his mind and have discourse with people. We should mourn our Christian brother who's been murdered and pray for his family and hope things get better in our nation. Don't be afraid to speak the truth. Except for this Roberson guy who's a part of the NAMB Send network. So you have to understand the North American Mission Board is trying to increase its revenue by increasing the number of churches. So they don't come into a place like Cartersville, Georgia, which already has a zillion churches. Although I think they do have some kind of partnership with Lake Point Church, which was a church plant in Emerson, which is right next to Cartersville. What they do is they have a Send network, and they have Send cities like Atlanta, Memphis. So think of a city that has experienced demographic white flight. So what do? For the sake of the gospel? No. For the sake of demography, they find men of color to be pastors and be a part of their Send network. That's how it works. There's a huge racial undertone. Overtone. Sorry, it's an overtone. They're going into cities trying to make the SBC more diverse. Why? Because the old white people are dying, and then their money is gone, and they need to replace them with people who are still church-going, and minorities, as a percentage, are more church-going than the whites are. That's just how it is. I don't know why, that's just how it is. But as we know, the majority black churches tend to be more politically progressive, more concerned with race, and that's a cultural thing. For whatever reason, white people culturally tend to be more individualistic. Think of the Raven character from WCW. What about me? What about Raven? It's all about me and my family. I don't view myself as part of the community. Like, well, I'm a white guy. If I win the lottery, you say, what are you going to do? I'm not going to say give back to the community. I'm going to say I'm going to go buy a boat and go fishing. And then what if a white guy gets a big MLB, NFL contract? What are you going to do with your $50 million contract? I ain't going to give back to the community. I'm going to send my kids to private school. What happens when you ask a black guy that? I'm going to give back to the community. I'm going to build a student center. I'm going to go volunteer. I'm going to go buy turkeys for poor people at Thanksgiving. I'm going to give back to the community. The community. Black people are more communitarian than white people. I don't know why. I'm not saying one's wrong and one's right and one's bad. I'm saying it's different. So that becomes the attitude of the church if it's a majority ethnicity. And this is where Send Network is trying to get in. And they get politically progressive pastors. And this one guy, Robertson, in his Sunday comment on Charlie Kirk, basically said he had it coming. You go out speaking like that and saying things that could offend other races, this is what's going to happen to you. He had it coming. He had it coming. He had it coming just the same. So he basically went out there like the cast of Chicago and said he had it coming. All kind of movie references today on the Christian Commute. If you'd have been there, if you'd have seen it, I bet you would have done the same. And you know who's dressed like the people, the cast of Chicago, to bring this thing full circle? The girls at the Cartersville homecoming tonight. Anyway, very insensitive comment, not an appropriate comment, but a comment, you got to understand the context this is made in. Charlie Kirk upset a lot of black people. And you got to understand culturally, black people tend to get upset as a whole. I identify with it. Like, think about the Martin Luther King thing. Martin Luther King was shot. Medgar Evers was shot. These guys were assassinated. These guys are murdered in a communitarian ethos. Like, you feel like they feel like it happens to every one of them. That's what happens with the George Floyd thing. Forget that George Floyd was a criminal, or the guy from St. Louis who the cops killed, Michael Brown. And another thing, like, those guys had it coming from being career criminals. And I know those things went differently. The cops were exonerated in one, the cops weren't in the other. But the black community, they feel like this has happened to all of us. Like we have all won the lottery and we're all going to build a community center and we've all been murdered by the police. And when some white person gets murdered, most of the time, it doesn't feel like, oh, this happened to all of us. And I think there's a bit of that feeling with what happened to Charlie Kirk, and I talked about that last week. So I guess now y'all white folk know how it feels, okay? But this is the kind of thing that would be maybe uncontroversial to say in a black church. But this is a North American Mission Board Sin church. So this is somebody who's denominationally backed. And remember, NAMB is bending over backwards to raise its revenue base with black churches. That's why the Sin Network exists. That's why you have the Dottie Lewises of the world. That's why you have people talking about not just the Great Commission, but the Great Requirement, which is to do social justice good. Okay? And here Tom Buck sees this Roberson guy and says, now it's cancel culture time. A lot of people getting canceled about saying horribly insensitive things about Charlie Kirk. I talked a little bit at lunch about this today with my buddy. I said, you have this whole awful assassination that's happened. And now it's in a social media world where people get on social media and say horrible things like, yeah, I'm glad he did. I hope he burned in hell. That's another movie quote for you. That's Samuel L. Jackson from A Time to Kill, even though Samuel L. Jackson was the protagonist and the good guy in that. So people are out there celebrating the death and assassination of Charlie Kirk, not feeling, oh, here's this family man who was assassinated by some psycho. They're like, I'm glad he's dead. He can burn in hell. Horrible things. You know what? Wicked, evil people thinking that about bad news is not new. I bet when Martin Luther King was killed in the 60s, a bunch of racists said, well, they got that N-word finally. I guarantee you they said it to their friends. I hate for a man to be murdered, but I won't miss him. Rabble rouser. I guarantee you people said that. But you know what you couldn't do? Tweet, good riddance, MLK, burn in hell, N-word. You couldn't do that back then. So what happened? People said horrible things about a horrible incident and kept their jobs. But now people have social media and are apparently stupider than people were 30 years ago. So now they think the horrible thing out of their evil heart, like they would have said about MLK. And now they say the same thing about Charlie Kirk, but they put it on Twitter and Instagram. People find out where they work, and that person is fired. Is it because the ownership of the company or the board of directors of the particular company thinks what they said is bad? Maybe. Or it could be it's bad business to keep people like this around. People won't buy from us. I think that's why Jimmy Kimmel lost his job, among other things. It's not that ABC agrees or disagrees with what he said. It's like, this is hurting business. So you don't want to hurt business. Let me just tell you, here's a way to hurt business. Be overtly racist, like somebody would say about Martin Luther King back in that day. Thank God we didn't have Twitter then for a bunch of people to say that. Or be overtly callous and say, oh, some 30-year-old guy got murdered and assassinated, and now his family is, his kids are orphaned and his wife is widowed, and I'm going to celebrate it because I don't agree with his politics. That's a little un-American, by the way. That's just you talking about it's un-American. So the people who've been saying these things are getting canceled. But it's like there's an army of conservative people out there looking for it. Let me find your offensive tweet and send it to your employer and see if I can get you fired. Like if somebody like that gets fired, I'm going to be in the cast of Chicago saying, he had it coming. He had it coming. But at the same time, I'm not like celebrating it. I'm not out looking for it. But there's people out there looking for it. So it's come to light what this Robertson guy said. It was published at the Dissenter. You can Google the story if you want to see it for yourself. If you can get by the pop-up ads, Jeff. And now Tom Buck has written yet another open letter. Tom Buck has reached out to NAMB. This must be addressed. We have this guy. Essentially, we have this insensitive woke guy in NAMB. And Southern Baptists are paying his salary, and Southern Baptist churches this Sunday are full of people lamenting the death of a brother, Charlie Kirk, and this guy needs to be canceled. You think that's going to change, NAMB? And I've been trying to tell y'all people on Twitter or wherever else, don't say anything to NAMB. Just stop giving them money. NAMB is wicked. I expect the people who work for them to say wicked things, and I expect the people in charge to either look the other way or celebrate it. Because NAMB is awful. It's like if you coach football and you have a running back and you say, hey, running back, you have to, number one, read your block. You can't just go wherever you want. And number two, you can't carry the football like a loaf of bread. And he keeps trying to cut everything outside because he's fast and he thinks he can. And if he keeps getting stripped because he carries the ball like a loaf of bread, around the second or third time, you stop coaching him and you stop putting him in the football game. He's on the bench. He's on the scout team. Because that dog won't hunt. NAMB is a dog that won't hunt. And if you spend your time and denominational career like Tom Buck sitting around on Twitter and writing letters and saying, oh, NAMB, you need to fire this guy. You need to do the right thing. Oh, Southeastern Baptist Theological Seminary, Karen Swallow Pryor shared my wife's manuscript without her permission. Hey, dummy. If you walk up to a junkyard and there's a dog barking at you, foaming at the mouth, and you reach in to pet him and he bites you, what did you expect would happen when you were friendly with Karen Swallow Pryor? Hey, dummy. When you support NAMB and its sin network that's urban for the sake of being urban, not because they care about the colorless souls of people, because they care about skin and money, skin in the game. If I was still writing a lot of articles at Pulpit and Pen, I'd title one, Skin in the Game. All they care about is money. And they look at the color of the skin, and if there's something unbiblical about a culture, they'll ignore it to get the money. And by the way, they do that with white people too. That's why there's churches running around with woman pastors. All they care about is green. And you expect them to do the right thing? No, dummy, they're not going to do the right thing. Remember, the movie references are just flying everywhere. Some musical, some not. Remember when Gandalf went to Sauron, or not to Sauron, to Saruman? And he's like, hey man, we got a problem here. I found the One Ring and Sauron is after it. What are we going to do? And Saruman turns on him. Gandalf had every expectation that Saruman should not have done that. He was supposed to be on Gandalf's side. And then the eagles come and save him. All right. Here's Tom Buck and everybody else in the SBC who's waiting for NAMB to do the right thing about this pastor who said Charlie Kirk had it coming. Writing letters. What are you going to do? And what are you going to do? You are like people who would walk up to Isengard in Lord of the Rings 2. I haven't read the books, just the movies. And say, hey, Saruman, let's talk about this. You've got this orc army here. You're on the wrong side. No, don't talk about it. Get an army of anthropomorphic trees to tear it down. He's a bad guy. Stop expecting him to do the right thing. NAMB is run by Kevin Ezell. He's a bad guy. All the Sin Network guys giving you free backpacks at the Southern Baptist Convention, they're bad guys. And you got Tom Buck on Twitter saying, well, I'm going to write another letter. Stop it. You're futile. You haven't changed anything. Ever. And you're not gonna. Virtue casting open letters. The best way to cancel somebody you don't want to support is to cancel them yourself. When what was it? When we passed our heartbeat law in Georgia, this is, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, our state Congress, our state Senate, House of Reps, our state legislature, that's what I'm looking for. Our state legislature passed a heartbeat law that said you can't get an abortion in Georgia, and I think they made exemptions for rape and incest, which were wrong. So you can't get an abortion in Georgia if you can detect a heartbeat. And so, well, that's incrementalism. That's not abolitionism. But what that does is effectively outlaws abortion, because by the time most people realize they're pregnant and want to go procure an abortion from the death merchants at Planned Parenthood, etc., a heartbeat is detectable. And that got signed in the law by the governor. That got signed in the law by the governor. And there's a lot of movies filmed in Georgia. There's tax credits here. There's a huge Tyler Perry studio here for Medea to dress up and do different things. Stop. My kids have called me 3 times in 5 seconds, and they don't get that I'm trying to finish the show. Their mom's home. I'm not. Stop it. I'll block my own number. I'm going to yell. I'm going to cut a promo on whoever. That's 5. How do I just... 6. I'm going to pause. All right, that's that. When they passed that, Hollywood started Hollywood started lobbying against our heartbeat law. And these celebrities are like, I'm not filming here. And Netflix actually got involved in a lawsuit against it somehow. Like supported the lawsuit or donated money to a lobbyist to try and get our heartbeat law revoked. I'm like, not NetSuite. Did I say NetSuite? Netflix. Netflix, what are you doing? You're a movie making company. But there was a moral issue for them. And even though my kids like to watch dino trucks, and so do I canceled my Netflix. Nope, you're not getting any of my money. I cancel you. Now, I didn't put billboards out on the street, cancel Netflix because they're killing babies. I'm like, I don't want to do business with you, Netflix. So I'm not giving you any money. Don't come into my town or my city when we're trying to save babies and be a movie company and try and lobby against it. Did they have a legit business interest? Maybe they want to make a movie here and they can't get certain actors to come because, like, I'm not going to go there. Leftists talking about cancel culture. I mean, think about how wicked New York City and New York State is. Evangelical Christians will go to New York City and watch a ball game or catch a show and do tourist things there, even though it's full of evil people. But leftists are like, I'm not traveling to your state. Ever. I don't like your laws. They're judgmental. I mean, these are the type of people who want to shoot Charlie Kirk, quite frankly. I disagree with you. I want you to crash and burn. But all that to say is, like, I'm not trying to boycott. I'm going to get everybody to boycott what I boycott. So when people from NAMB are awful, I'm like, of course you're awful. You're the bad guys, and I haven't given you any money in years. Or you can sit around being butthurt on Twitter, like, and basically engage in the futility of Tom Buck. Not a good look, Christians. Be discerning. Be wise. Just don't have anything to do with the evil people. And then you won't be upset when they're evil. You know, when Jimmy Kimmel said what he said, you know why it didn't offend me? Because I didn't hear it, because I don't watch Jimmy Kimmel. Because I don't want to stay up late to watch some liberal comedian dump on conservatism. First of all, like, I'm too old to be staying up late watching movie clips. I don't even know why they have those late night talk shows anymore. I can watch a movie trailer anytime I want to on YouTube. So I think those shows are kind of going in the tank anyway. Like, I'm going to stay up late now so I can see these interviews with celebrities. All these people have websites. I can see all the celebrity news I want. I can hear all their anecdotes on YouTube. So I think those shows are going away. Plus, I want comedians to make me laugh. I don't care about their political opinion. I don't want to hear them. Be famous because you're funny. So Jimmy Kimmel didn't offend me because I've never watched a single episode of Jimmy Kimmel Live, ever, not one. I have watched the little mean tweets. They have a little segment on there where celebrities read mean tweets that people put about them on Twitter. But you know what? I watched that on YouTube, and I think it's hilarious. But I watch it on YouTube. I'm not going to stay up late and watch that. So he didn't offend me because I don't watch him. But for some reason, there's a bunch of people with values similar to mine that I'm going to stay up and watch Jimmy Kimmel dump all over us. And when he went a bridge too far, some affiliates complained, and then he lost his job. Cancel him, cancel him, cancel him. I'm not out to try and cancel anybody. And if you're taking this Kirk thing and trying to cancel people in the North American Mission Board for it, like, you're messing up. Like, you're trying to cancel one guy in the North American Mission Board instead of canceling the North American Mission Board altogether. All right. And Tom Buck should know better, but he doesn't. So if your pastor is on the Tom Buck train, please get him off that train. If your pastor is on the cancel culture train, realign your train. Let's get, and I'm not saying Tom Buck doesn't evangelize people. I'm not saying that. But let's get to evangelizing these lost people rather than canceling them, because we should expect lost people to act like what? Lost people. So that's my advice. That and lengthen your dresses. High schoolers, stop dressing like prostitutes at homecoming. Thanks for listening to The Christian Commute. I'm your host, Seth Dunn. As always, God bless, and as always, remember, Christianity is not about getting saved, it's about being saved.